Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. I wanted to come to you with a tag because it is Tag Tuesday. And the tag that's been starting to go around since we're starting, we're about halfway through June, heading to the end of June, is the mid-year book Freakout tag. And this is going to be the 2022 edition. This is one of those tags that you can do every year. You can go back and reassess your reading for the first half of the year, and that is what I have done. I went back and looked at the volumes that I have went through, and so I just wanted to share that with you. I've watched this on several channels. I've watched it on so many of them that I'm not going to list everybody's. I saw Steve Donahue do it. Who else did I see do? There was a bunch of them, but I'll leave a link to a couple of them down below, and I'll leave a link to the original video down below as well. Just so you know where I'm at with the reading, and today is Sunday, June, I think 11th, 12th, something like that. So I'm not quite to the end of June when I'm doing this. So these numbers might change as the month goes on and I finish a couple more books. But at this point when I'm filming this, so far I have read 23 works of fiction and 17 works of nonfiction for a total of 40 books. On average, so far this first half of the year, my books have averaged about 301 pages per book. My longest books that I've read Winter of the Worlds, which is 940 pages. I've read the Hemmingses of Monticello, which came in at 798 pages. And I've also read The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt, which was 920 pages. So I've read, 3 really good-sized books. And I've also, right in the middle of a couple of more really good-sized books. So that list, if we look at this at the end of the year, it's the size of the books is going to get bigger, or the number of the big books is going to get bigger. Yeah. Anyway, let's get into the questions with this tag. We should be able to go through it fairly quickly. So the first question for the mid-year book Freakout tag 2022 edition. Number 1, the best book you've read so far in 2022. And this was kind of a hard one because I've got probably 4 books that rank pretty high for me right now. And I'm probably going to use a couple of these and a couple other questions. So just so you know, I have read Winter of the Worlds by Ken Follett. Excellent, excellent book. Probably the best fiction book I've read all year so far to date. I got done with Robert E. Lee Alive by Alan Gelso. I really enjoyed that book. The Hemmingses of Monticello by Annette Gordon-Reed. I read that early on in the year. Really, really enjoyed that book as well. But the one that I am going to pick as the best book so far is Edmund Morris's first volume of his trilogy, his biography trilogy on Theodore Roosevelt, The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. This book, the flow of the narrative goes so well. First of all, I like reading about Theodore Roosevelt. I think he's a fascinating character. A lot went on in his life. Some of it due to circumstances, some of it due to him wanting it to happen. But just a lot of good stuff that happened during his life, a lot of interesting stuff. And Edmund Morris just does a fabulous job of putting the narrative together and making it. It's a big book. Like I said, what did I say? 920 page? Yeah, 920 pages. But it did not seem like that. It seemed like a 200 or 300 page book because it reads very fast. Very, very good book. If you're interested in Theodore Roosevelt, go check out this trilogy. So this is volume 1. All right. So question number 2, best sequel you've read so far in 2022. For me, that is Winter of the Worlds by Ken Follett. This is book 2 in his trilogy, the Century trilogy, and it's all based around the 20th century. So book 1 dealt with the World War I time period. Book 2 is dealing with the World War II time period. So it starts in 1933 or 4, I cannot remember, 1933. The story starts out in 1933. It's got multiple families, multiple characters that get developed in this, and they all intertwine. You got some from the United States, some from England, some from Germany, some from Russia. And so it deals with a lot of different topics that are going on. The rise of Nazism in Germany, the continued issues with labor in England, the idea of communism in Russia. It also brings in the not Spanish-American War. That's Theodore Roosevelt. The Spanish Civil War and what's going on there. It does an excellent job, and it takes the story all the way to 1940. Was it 48 or 49? Again, 1949, and it creates the United Nations. You see the end of the war and then the creation of the United Nations. But I can't say enough for Ken Follett. Oh my goodness, what an author. If you have not read Ken Follett, you need to pick up his stuff. Excellent author. So question number 3, new release that you haven't read yet, but you want to. So on May 31st, Sparring Partners came out by John Grisham. I cannot wait to get my hands on that. I think my wife and daughter are still upstairs. I think on Father's Day, that's my gift. So anyway, I don't know that I'm supposed to know that. I think she knows that I know that. But anyway, I can't wait to get my hands on it and read that book. I'm totally excited. I love John Grisham. So that's the new one that I haven't, I think I have it, but I haven't read it. So question number 4. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And I had to look up, because I usually don't buy brand new books. So I had to look up, the new stuff that's coming out. And the one that stood out to me was a new biography by John Meacham coming out on October 25th. And it is called And There Was Light, Abraham Lincoln and the American Struggle. So, oh my goodness, you take my number one thing I like to read about, Lincoln, and one of my favorite authors, my favorite biographers, Meacham, and you put those together and it can't go wrong. I am super stoked to read that. So, question number 5, my biggest disappointment. Now, got to be careful here because I know there's a lot of fans of this book and this author. So, don't read into this too much. I think I set my expectations too high is the reason. But my youngest daughter, who has this obsession with pirates, and we decided that we were going to read, or maybe I decided we were going to read Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson, and we were going to read a chapter a night. And we started doing that, but it quickly lost my daughter. She enjoyed the sea the song, yo ho ho in a bottle of rum. We had fun singing that, and maybe that's not good to sing with a 5-year-old, but anyway, we had fun singing that. But the storyline, I think she kind of got lost on, so I ended up reading most of it just by myself, and I really couldn't get into it. I don't know if it was just how the narrative, how it's written. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. I think I had too high of expectations, and I just did not enjoy it as much as I thought I would. It was all right. Don't get me wrong. I would pick it up again if I hadn't, knowing now what I didn't know then, and if I hadn't read it yet, I would still pick it up, if that makes any sense. But not one of my favorites. So anyway, let's move on. Number 6. My biggest surprise. So in going back and reading some of these classics, I read Animal Farm by George Orwell. And I was expecting something that I was going to struggle with, that I was going to have to think a lot about, and I was worried I wouldn't understand what was going on. And I totally got it. I really enjoyed Orwell's look at communism and what that truly means, and of course he applied it to a farm and the animals in the farm, and super short book. If you've never read that, go ahead and check that out. That's very, very interesting. And then my other biggest surprise was actually I don't want to call it a reread. I actually audiobooked it this time. because I read the first 3 volumes of Harry Potter. It's been 15 years ago. And they were all right, but they didn't catch my imagination like it was the kids. But I found that as I was listening to them on audiobook, I thoroughly enjoyed them a whole lot more than I did when I was reading them. I don't know why, but I did that while like I was making lunch for the day and doing dishes and walking to school. That's when I was, it's that downtime, that dead time that you usually don't get any reading in. I was doing audiobook during that time, and I found that I liked listening to them. So anyway, kudos to Harry Potter on that. So number 7, favorite new author, and this could be a debut author or new to you. So I picked new to me, and Agatha Christie, and then there were none. She was new to me this year. I had not read her stuff. I meant to get to it last year during March Mystery Madness and did not. I got to it this year though and really liked it. I've picked up some other books since then, and I look forward to further reading that. That was good stuff. And then also I found a couple of middle grade authors that I've enjoyed this year. And that's Lori Halse Anderson, which actually she's not new to me. I had read her before, but I've read 3 different books by her during this first 6 months of the year. And so she has been excellent. And then Avi, I had never heard of Avi, and I read Sophia's War in the Fighting Ground. And those 2 books were really good for middle grade or maybe even upper elementary. The Fighting Ground was upper elementary. Excuse me. Number 8, newest fictional crush. Now, I kind of agree with Steve Donahue on this. I don't really crush on book characters. I kind of don't understand that. But anyway, if I had to put one in just to fill the question, I would probably say Z from Philip R. Craig's Vineyard Mysteries. I really like her personality in the books, in most of the books, because she's just so true to JW, the main character, and JW is so true to her, and their love affair is just fun to read about. It's fun to to imagine that as you're reading. Now, in this book, she kind of made me angry because her eyes were not on JW the whole story, and that really irritated me. So anyway, she would probably fall into that question. So number 9, my newest favorite character. I actually picked a series of characters. I'm not even going to give you one particular name. It's just a series of characters that we find in Winter of the Worlds. All of the female characters in this book, they are strong characters. I feel that Ken Follett did a heck of a job in making strong female characters who were able to shine during very difficult times in life and very difficult times in history. In the first book, I really liked his male characters. They stood out to me. In this one, it's the female characters. You got a lot of different situations going on where they do not fall into the background. They are the drivers of the story, and I really enjoyed that. Let's see, question number 10, a book that made you cry. Okay, I occasionally do cry at books, or it'll at least make me teary-eyed anyway. I did not have any that made me cry this year, at least so far. But the 2 that maybe pushed me the closest to that point was by S.E. Hinton, and that was the book Tex and The Outsiders. Those 2 books deal with some very, very serious issues in those young people's lives. And like Tex deals with abandonment, and it really touched my heart. Didn't quite make me cry, but it really touched my heart, and what he was dealing with in that story. And then in The Outsiders, they just deal with a lot of loyalty, and there's some death in there, and makes you think about stuff. So anyway, number 11, a book that made you happy. I have read over the last 6 months, and then actually the beginning of the school year, so we could go back a few more months, Mike Lupica books, his sports books, they just make me happy. I love reading sports stories, and he does such a good job of not only having the sports story going, but also just what's going on in the lives of those kids, the serious issues. And I just think he does an excellent job with middle grade sports books that can hook any reader, whether you're a sports fan or not. And so they just make me happy. Number 12. Most beautiful book that you've bought so far this year or received. Okay, so I didn't know which one was the most beautiful. I picked my favorites. Instead of using the word beautiful, I'm picking my favorites. And I've shared this before on this channel that I really love with my nonfiction books when we're using actual photos from the time period. And I felt that these 3 books were just awesome. The covers on them. And please keep in mind, I cannot remember when I received these, if these were at the beginning of this year or maybe at the very end of last year. So I might be cheating a little bit here. But the ones that I chose was Radical Sacrifice, The Rise and Ruin of John Porter. I really liked that cover. Okay. I really liked Meade at Gettysburg, A Study in Command by Kent Masterson Brown. Thought that was a pretty cool cover. And then Robert E. Lee, A Life by Alan Gelzo. And so that's kind of a wraparound on that one. That is really cool. I enjoy those type of covers, those historical pictures on the covers, or historical paintings if you go back further in history. And those are 3 that I really liked that are all kind of Civil War related. Thank you to Steve Donahue for sending those to me. I really appreciate that. All right, so last question in the tag. This is number 13. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Okay, so I have a whole stack of them, I always do, but the ones that one of them I'm working on right now, I just got started on it, is Grant by Ron Chernow. This is a pretty good sized book. Is it 1,000? Yeah, it is 1,074 pages, and I figured I better get started on it or I will not get it done. But I always love Ron Chernow's books, and this is one that's been sitting over there, and just the sheer size of it has been, kind of daunting. And so I decided I am going to get it started and get it read. And so since I got I got that Robert E. Lee done, I wanted to see the Union side, so I picked up Grant. Can't wait to do that one. There's a smaller volume for Cause and Comrades, Why Men Fought in the Civil War by James McPherson. I should get that done over this summer, probably in July, I'm thinking, but can't wait to get into that one. In August, I'm going to do another buddy read with Peg at the History Shelf. Catastrophe 1914, Europe Goes to War by Max Hastings. So I'm going to get that one started in August for our buddy read. That's going to be great because I will be getting into, with my 7th grade, we'll be looking at geography of Europe, and then we get into the historical stuff, and I do that as more of a I look at the modern history, and so we start in World War I, and so that'll be really good for that class. I really want to get read this year. I'm hoping to start it maybe in July. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Damas. Now, I read this when I first got married, actually, so about 20 years ago, 20 years ago. And when I read it, it was the abridged version. And being the young and dumb kid that I was, I didn't even realize it. I didn't pay attention to that. And so it was like this big. And I got to watch in BookTube, and this was last year, I think. There were several people that were doing a buddy read on the Count of Monte Cristo. Well, when they were talking, oh, it's a big book, and I'm thinking, this big, they had books this size, and I was like, oh, I must not have read the full version. And so at the end of last year, maybe the beginning of this year, maybe in January, we were at Barnes & Noble, and I saw it for $8. And so I picked it up because that is something that I would like to get done this year. And then, of course, Sparring Partners by John Grisham, which I don't have that book in front of me because I have not received it yet. But I want to get that read. So, BookTube. This is my mid-year book freakout tag. I freaked out. I've looked at what I've read, what's been good, what's been bad, and what I need to get read. Where are you at in your reading? If you have not done this tag, I would suggest everybody that does videos on BookTube to do the mid-year book freakout tag, and do it every year, because it just assesses where you're at with your reading. It doesn't necessarily have to put pressure on yourself, but it does make you, kind of look at things and look at the shelf and say, oh, I've been meaning to get to that. Maybe I should go ahead and make sure I get to it. So if you have not done this, I would recommend all of you to do that. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And BookTube, until next time, happy reading.